Right before we jump into this video, if you'd like me to send you a free guide to capturing motion in low light situations, just look for this orange box over on the website, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I'll send you that guide for free. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is a review of the Tamron 28-75 f2.8 G2 for Sony E Mount Cameras. Now, this is the second generation that they have of the 28-75, thus the G2. The first model came out about 3.5 years ago. Now, before I get into the outside of the lens, let me tell you what I was able to photograph with it. I photographed a Rival Sun concert. It was actually a really good time to photograph. If you could ever go check these guys out, I would suggest you check them out on the Spotify. And then I also went outside and photographed kids running around a park, because that is a situation that a lot of people would use a lens like this in. So I give it in the extreme of the dark area for concerts, and then we go out into the light to photograph kids. All right, let's take a look at the outside of the lens. It's light. When you pick it up, you're like, oh, right, I remember this thing is pretty light, because it's one of their more affordable 2.8 lenses for the E Mount system. It weighs in at 1.19 pounds or 540 grams. But on the flip side, Sigma also makes a 28-70 2.8. Now this one is 5 millimeters shorter. I know every millimeter counts. I hear it all the time, but this one is much smaller and weighs in at 1.04 pounds or 470 grams. Now, I'm showing you this here because I think that Tamron got this out quicker than they would have wanted to normally, because Sigma came out with something that was very similar. But I'm gonna put this away. I'll be honest, I really did like this Sigma lens. We did do a review of it, and it gets the job done in a super small package, and it's actually $100 less than this G2. We'll get to the price of the G2 a little later on. All right, picking this bad boy up, we've got our lens hood. I always recommend you have a lens hood. You put it on and you use it no matter what. In terms of filter thread, we've got a, what does this say, Steven? I can't read it. It's too small. 67, thank you. It's 67 millimeters, so any filter that you have will be a 67. Tamron went as far as telling us that they have a new rubber texture feel. That just shows you that there's probably not that much of a difference between the first version and the second version, if they have to talk about the rubber. The truth is, there are a bunch of differences, and I'm almost there. So this is your zoom ring. That's it. It's a quick throw. 28-75 is not very far at all. Below there, you have your focus ring. You have a button, a custom button that they didn't have on the first version. Is that correct, Steven? Yep. Yeah, no, they didn't have that on the first version, but it's nice that they added it, and Sigma doesn't have one there on their lens. I personally don't ever use these custom buttons for anything. If you did use it, maybe it's to activate IAF, which is automatic on anything above the A7 III at this point. But if you have an A7 III and you want to activate it, you could use it right there. I just never use this button. Now below there, they do have a USB-C here for charging it, because it can also reverse compatibly be a charger for your, it can't. That's not what it's for. This is for updating the firmware. So it's kind of cool that they put it in here that you can just quickly plug it in, do the computer thing, update the firmware on this lens when you need to do so. Other than that, there is not much more to talk about on the outside of the lens, because it is really small and light. On the inside, you've got 9 aperture blades. If you're someone who's counting, it's better than 8, or is it really? It's 9 aperture blades. Also on the inside, you will not find any vibration compensation, or as they call it, VC, but you do have new focusing motors that are called the VXD. Those focusing motors are said to be 2 times faster than the G1, and the G2 gets VXD. What does VXD stand for? I'm gonna tell you, I wrote it down. Voice Coil Extreme Torque Drive. Why is it VXD? It should be VCXTD. That's what it should be. Is it faster? It's fine. autofocus out there with the kids was fine. Like, it got the job done. It did what it needed to do, but we'll get to the sample images in just a minute. And by in just a minute, I mean right now. Let's jump into the first shots. I was photographing, like I said, rival sons, as well as the opening act at the Fillmore in Philly. I reached out to them to say, look, I'm testing out some new lenses. Give me all access to shoot the entire show, and I'll give you the photos to use however you want. That's how I'm able to get access for a lot of things. That and that blue check mark, in all honesty, doesn't hurt, because I reached out through Instagram and the band got back to me. Instead of going to like management and the label, I reached out to the band. The lead singer was like, we got you set. You can do the whole show. Thank you very much. And they let me in. So this shot right here is done at 30 millimeters. So it's a 2.8 all the way through. I do want to say that I did shoot the concert also with this right here. And this is the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8. So I have a full lens review on this bad boy, but I wanted to bring this out for just a second to show you the difference between the two. You've got a 28 to 75, super light, very good lens that's pretty affordable for a 2.8 lens these days, versus something like this, which is going to be like okay, I'll tell you the price. This is $899. This is $1899. So $1,000 more is going to get you something along these lines. Like, if I was choosing and the weight and the price didn't matter, of course I'm going to go with this bad boy because it gives me a nice range. But when photographers are just starting out and they want something better than the kit lens, a 28 to 75 is an unbelievable place to start because it gives you something that's pretty darn wide, and it gives you something that lets you zoom in a little bit. You could do portraits, you could do landscapes, you could do things where you don't need things at a distance, of course. Let me jump in here real quick because I want to show you this photo that's taken with the Tamron 28 to 75 f2 version 2 and edited with FroPack 3. So let's start with Fifth Element. Look at what Fifth Element does with one click, followed by Capone. Capone looks really cool. Even though it pulls out that color, it kind of gives it a cool look. Then we've got King Contrast. Now check this out. We've got Mount Airy. Look at what it did to the face. That looks awesome. Followed by Prestige Worldwide, which is giving you a really cool look. But if you didn't know, let me show you this. Now I'm in Lightroom Mobile. I have the same image. I click down here where it says presets. I'm in, look at this. I've got FroPack 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to go into FroPack 1 and just look at this. I just go ahead and I tap it, and I'm now working in Lightroom Mobile with the same exact presets. So if you're looking to speed up your raw workflow or give yourself a great starting point, we created 15 custom Lightroom presets that you can check out right now at FroKnowsPhoto.com/FroPack3. While you're over there, you can play with the sliders to see the befores and the afters. And if you decide to pick them up right now, they are currently on sale. Or if you want to get the triple play bundle, you can get FroPack 1, 2, and 3 and save even more. And don't forget, they sync over to your Lightroom Mobile so that you can edit any of your RAWs or JPEGs on the go. Now, let's get back to the video. In terms of focus, this guy wasn't really moving, the opener, and I was using the Sony A1, but even if I was using the A7 III, I would have still had fantastic results. They would have been very similar. So the focus was fine on that camera, and I just like, even at 30 millimeters, I like the way that the scene looks. Now, punching in tighter at 75, the sharpness on the eye is very good. The tones, the contrast, everything looks good in this. The lighting was perfect for exactly what I needed. The reason I went to black and white for these is I just felt that the color was lacking. For whatever reason, it didn't work in color, so that's why I went to black and white, but I do have some color images coming up. This is what 28 millimeters gives you, so that's 75, that's 28. It's a really good option in a photo pit. It's a good option if you're, say, shooting sports and it's like basketball right in front of you. It's gonna work. If you're doing group shots, it's gonna work out. It's okay at 75 for portraits. It wouldn't be my first choice, but it's still a good starting lens. Just another one at 75. I love the contrast here. This one worked out really well, so I'm definitely happy with those results. And from the side stage, this is 28 millimeters. You can just see what you get. So from 28 to 75, it is a pretty good range. If you want to step up in price, you could look at something like a Sigma 24 to 70, which is going to be a couple $100 more to get a 24 to 70 2.8. It's also going to be a lot heavier than carrying this around. So if weight is an issue or a concern to you, then something along this line might be a great option for you. Next up, I went to 8,000 ISO, which gave me 1/400th of a second at 2.8. I liked having 28 for this because I got both of the band members in here to get the shot. So for the concert, it was good. I mean, it's light. Is it as fast as the 35 to 150 focusing? I don't think so. Is it faster than the G1 28 to 75? Very hard to say. I used that thing over 3.5 years ago, and then we ended up sending it back to Tamron, and I didn't have any complaints with that lens, and I don't have complaints with the speed of this lens because I went outside and I photographed the kids, and I had them running towards me. This is little Dan, and little Dan's friend is in the back, and this is him running towards me. So what am I at? I'm at 75 millimeters, 1/1000th of a second, 200 ISO. It's fast enough. It allows you to get the job done, right? I like the bokeh in the back. I like the way that the subject, you have the separation. This is the difference between using a kit lens and upgrading to something that's a 2.8. You're instantly going to see better results. Even if you don't know why you're seeing better results, you're gonna get better results with that 2.8 if you set it to 2.8, just because you're gonna get photographs that don't just look like snapshots. Another one of him running, I was just testing out the focus as he was running. You can see the electronic viewfinder. Is this tack? It's pretty hard to say. I don't think that this one is tack sharp. And I kind of noticed it. It just, in some of these pictures outside, I'm like, you know, like, is it or isn't it? So it's just, I'm not really fully sure whether it's super duper tack sharp in this situation or not. Jumping on to one that I did at 31 millimeters, just because I wanted to get the composition the way I wanted to get it. Here he looks nice and sharp. So it definitely hit there, and the separation from the background is perfectly fine. Now, when you have a baby crawling at you, or a 13-month-old, because that's how old this baby was, it's much easier to get photos of them. They're not moving as fast. You don't have to work as hard. And when we zoom in, I'm sorry, I didn't really want to make you cry, but Poonam, look at that face. You're like, what's going on? She didn't actually cry, but she looked like she was gonna cry. This one is so sharp. Nice tones, nice contrast, worked out perfectly well with the IAF. And then here is a color version just so that you can see the separation and the different tones. Now you can download some of these sample raw files to see for yourself. I like to give them to you so that you can determine whether or not it's good enough for you or it's not good enough for you. Next, we've got the one at 28 millimeters. You can see how the background isn't perfectly out of focus because we're not using an f2 in this situation, we're using a 2.8, but I still think there's a good enough amount of separation. And 28, when you get close to your subject and fill the frame pretty well with these wides, it's nice. I always say, try to establish a scene, and the 28 millimeter will help you establish a scene. So for the most part, I was perfectly fine with the results I got from this lens. Let me jump in here real quick and say, would you like to purchase this lens new, or any lens for that matter? Well, check out allenscamera.com. They are linked down below, and they've supported us since day one of this, and I like to support them, and they've been around longer than I've been alive. They've been around since 1977. So if you want to support them, a mom and pop store, check them out down below. Now this lens is $899. Do I wish it was $799, which is the same price as the Sigma? The answer is yes. Do I wish that it was like $599 or $699? The answer is yeah, because when someone's new buying a camera, it's hard to be like, it's $899 for you to get a lens. And you're like, but that's more expensive than the body I bought, or it's the same price as the body I bought. And so I don't know where all the price goes, but of course it's all relative. As time goes on, things have gotten more expensive. It's a good value, right? Both of these lenses are a good value. And what I'll say is, if you already own a Tamron G1, 28 to 75, I probably wouldn't dump it to get the version 2. If you're deciding between the Sigma or the Tamron, you get 5 millimeters more. That's not really that big of a deal. It's $100 more. If you're in the Sigma ecosystem already, then stick with the Sigma ecosystem. If you're into the Tamron world, then go with the Tamrons. It's really a flip of a coin at that point because they're both very good. But what I do need to do is do the sniff test and the wind tunnel test, because that's certainly going to help us decide what the final outcome is. Let's sniff it. Oh my God, it smells like Curious George's handler his handler's hat. It smells like his yellow hat from Curious. I loved Curious George. Curious George was so good, Steven. I really loved Curious George. Let's do the wind tunnel test and see how it does. Oh my God, it moved. Failed the wind tunnel test. Failed the wind tunnel test. Look, at the end of the day, I always say when someone's starting out that you have some options. I like to see you upgrade to a 2.8 lens or one of those 1.8s as fast as possible because you're gonna enjoy photography more because you're gonna get better results with the 2.8. You may not know why at the beginning, but over time you will start to take control of your camera. And so getting into a 2.8 like this is what I recommend. So I like to say a 28 to 75 and that 70 to 180 from Tamron would be a really good 2-lens kit to start with. Or now, with Tamron having this 35 to 150, if you can justify $1,899 and just want one lens, then this is a very good option from Tamron as well. So what do you guys think? Would you go with the 28 to 75 or spend the extra money, which is a lot of extra money for something like this? Let me know down below. Don't forget you can download sample RAW files over on the website. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. Jared, PolinFroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.